Hello, model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week's build here I'm featuring is a 71 Mustang Boss 351. Now, these were built all on the sports roof body style fastback for the 71 model year, just like previous Boss versions. And this one was 1 year only, 1971 offering. And there's a few differences here, but still had a lot of the same roots as the other Boss versions. This one having a special 351 motor in it. And while this one, it actually made more power than the previous 302 at 330 horsepower and 370 foot-pounds of torque. But it had a rev of 5,400 RPM versus the 302's 6,000 RPM. Well, that was a rev limiter on that one. But this car, it was a bit bigger and heavier, and I always thought it was a much sleeker body style and pretty aggressive, and I really liked that NACA duct hood right there. I always thought that was just really cool. And but this car, it was for the package it was quite the performer and one of the most powerful cars in 1971. So it was kind of a real sleeper, even though you can get the 429 Cobra Jets and Super Cobra Jets in the Mach 1s, but not in this Boss 351 variant. But it was kind of a bit of a pricey car. It was like $1,000 over the base price, but you're looking at like a $4,100 car. So it was a bit more expensive than the previous models, but quite the looker too. I like the colors, and I really like the stripe packages, even though they really mimic the Mach 1 was available in similar stripes as well. But for the Boss 351, it had a blacked out tail panel like other models, and just full on racing stuff, but came with a manual tranny, but AC was available in this one. And then the 9-inch rear only came with 391 gears, so there was some limitations there as well. But the wing on the back and spoiler on the front and some of this stuff. But really enjoyed building this one, and I actually built three of them almost simultaneously anyway. But I had to have this one in my collection because I really enjoyed building the Boss 302s. Featured the monogram 70 models, the Boss 302 and the Boss 429, which right out of the box, those are just great kits, and I really enjoyed those. I kit bashed a couple of them with the Revell 69 Mach 1 to make a 69 Boss 302 and a 69 Boss 429. So I had all four, both 69s and both 70s. I had all four of those. So I had to get a Boss 351 in my collection to represent, all of the Boss variants. So I had to do this one, and there was a kit out of it, the MPC kit, which this is that kit, and it was later reissued under the AMT ERTL label, but both of those were blue with the silver decals, and those silver decals were pretty hard to use. So at the time, when I was building this one, I used Keith Mark's decals. Now this one is pretty close to 20 years old. Can't remember exactly when I built it, but we're talking mid 2000s. I built this one, so probably 2005, 2006. But you could find these kits cheap, and they had recently been reissued as well. So they were pretty plentiful to find, and kit wise, they weren't very desirable because it is a difficult kit to build. It's not one of the worst ones, but and it has its issues. Some of the things with the Boss 351, the Boss 351 should have a chrome front bumper, not a small bumper like this. This has the Mach 1 front bumper. Grill and headlights are a little hokey, but not too bad. I added this gin spoiler. It didn't have one. And the interesting part is the 73, 74 Roadrunner GTX has this spoiler in it, but I cut it and spliced it and made it fit this. But that's the custom spoiler, front spoiler from that car, and I used it for this one just to get that look to it. It had the rear wing, the slats. I love this hood. It reminds me of the Shelby's of 69 and 70, even though, this was, there were no Shelby's in 71 and 72 from Ford in the US anyway. There is a Shelby Europa. I built one of those. I'm trying to remember if I featured that on the channel or not. But I turned one of those into that because Keith Marks offers the decals to do that, as well as the Mach 1 version. So I built the yellow Mach 1 version, which I know I featured that one, and the Shelby Europa, all from this tooling. But like I said, it's kind of, MPC tooling, not the greatest. The detail is not, this one, in my opinion, is decent. For the longest time, it was the only thing available. So you take your time, build it, clean it up, but I didn't really worry too much about it. I don't have the exhaust tips, which really don't come in the kit. And then I used these wheels, and here's the tail panel, but smoothed off the texture and everything for the Boss 351, so it didn't have the Mach 1. And then put the decals on there and just tried to detail out the taillights as best I could. And, just did the body. It's not gloss coated. The interior is actually pretty nice on this, and you can detail it, but, the interior is decent for what it is. But the engine compartment, that's really lacking, but that's typical MPC stuff right there. As far as how it's built, and at least it's got the manual tranny and the exhaust, but you can see where I got them to hook up together. And I can't remember if the kit's that way or if I did that. It's been a long time since I actually built one of these, because I built these three. It's hard to tell what motor that is. That's supposed to be the 351. It's got the fin valve covers, but it's definitely not very accurate. Kind of looks like more of a 302 than the 351 is supposed to represent. Air cleaner's way off. There's not much there, but just put all the decals in there and detailed it as best as I could for that. But it's got a pretty decent 71 Mach 1 grill style in it, which would be correct for the Boss 302. But as I mentioned, wrong front bumper. All the Boss 351s, I understand, should have the small chrome bumper and not the Enduro rubber front bumper. That was Mach 1 exclusive for 71 that I understand. And the Boss 351 was a 1971 only. But to me, it was always a cool car, and I had to have this one, and built it up, and fairly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the Revell kit coming out. That one's got me super excited, which is kind of why I pulled this one out and dusted it off to show you guys. And just see, this can be built, and built fairly nicely, but it just, everything needs to be fitted. And ironically, Missing Link came out with an updated front end to fix this one, to make it a little bit better. So, and then I bought 3 or 4 of those to update these, and I'll throw a picture in there. I know I have pictures of that kit, which he has both bumpers and just a whole nother headlight panel to change it all out. Just whether or not I can do that without ruining the paint or the decals, or if I have to change it all, because I intended to update these with that. And then I've got a couple more of the original kits. Another one of the AMT or MPC blue box art cars. I got one of those, and because for the longest time they were easy to pick up cheap, and it wasn't considered a very good kit, so they were pretty easy to find and pretty cheap to buy. So that's why I grabbed 3 of these and just didn't take the build too seriously, but just enjoyed building and trying to replicate the cars as best I can without driving myself crazy with the inaccuracies. So I'm looking at the Revell kit for that. But to Round 2's credit, they did take this kit, go through it, fix a few things, and one of the things they retooled the front headlight grill assembly and bumper a little bit, and did all that. So They released it as the Mach 1, a yellow box art, and then the 007 red box art. Both of those kits are real recent releases, and I picked up a couple of those, so I have those as well. And the decal sheets in those are so much nicer. I'll throw those pictures up too, and what's in those kits. So some really nice stuff in there, and then they added some of the wheels. So I like what Round Two did with this tooling compared to what it was before. So uh, some decent improvements, but still an old worn out tool from way back in the day is what it really is. It's just hard to tell looking at the box nowadays. But Round Two has been doing a good job of showing the contents on the bottom of the box and everything. So if you realize what you're looking at, okay, but some of the new modelers may not. But like I said, really looking forward to the Revell version and getting those, even though I built 3 of these and I have 3 or 4 more unbuilt in my collection. But anyway, I figured I would show this one off this particular weekend and see what you guys thought of it. Look forward to your comments, and especially if any of you guys are like this body style and you're expecting what you're expecting to see from Revell. If you're excited about that, even though it's long awaited, was announced years ago, and production delays and everything. I don't know what's going on. I don't have any contacts with Revell, but looking forward to that kit and building one of those as well, or at least just thumbing through all the trees and all the stuff on it. Saw HPI guy's review of it, and that's pretty exciting as well. So anyway, that I think will do it for this particular episode here. And like I said, I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' comments and everything, and if you built this kit and found it challenging or not, because it takes a quite a bit of work. And they had a 73 version that was more of a race car and it couldn't be built stock. I believe it didn't have a stock interior or anything, and there was some confusion with that years ago as well. But anyway, that should do it for this one. So thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really do appreciate it. And hit that bell button and like button for YouTube and all the algorithms and everything. That really helps us all out. And you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.